So this is a absolutely wonderful set of Hashgacha Pratis, which occurred to me over the last couple of days, and I feel the need to document it. Hodel Hashem ki tov ki l'olam chesdo. On Monday morning, I didn't have work, so I, thank God, got to have a nice long chavrusa with my good friend in the morning. And when I came home, I had time, for I was going to shul at 8 o'clock. And as I was collecting my things to go to daven, I saw this Sefer on the shelf, the Sali Sefer. Amazing stories about the Sali. And I had this thought that turned into a tefillah, which seemed strange. And I was wondering, why am I having this thought? And the thought was that I'd love to learn the Torah that comes from the Sefer family, and particularly also I was hoping for the Baba Sali. So I found myself davening to Hashem and asking Hashem if he could please somehow set me up with the opportunity to learn the Torah from the Baba Sali, from his line of tzaddikim. After I said it, I was like, that was strange. How would that happen? I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'd have to look for it online, but I was asking Hashem almost like to bring it to me, and I felt like, is that gonna, what? Like, why did I ask for that? Is it really gonna happen? I also thought to myself, well, Hashem is Hashem. Of course it could happen. We'll see what happens. Anyways, I went to shul, and I had a really nice davening. I tried to do avoda as best as I could, and I was trying to set up a chavrusa with someone that I really enjoy learning with. We learned Chumash together. Before our chavrusa, I noticed a set of Sefarim. So in Milwaukee, Rabbi Freilich from Torah sets up Sefarim for people to buy, and it's very, it's a very small amount of Sefarim that you can buy from, let's say, approximately maybe on a given day, 120 Sefarim may be there. Many of them are English. There's normally like 4 or 5 sets of things similar to this that you could find, like a set of Chumash, maybe a set of Sefer Chinuch, and it's constantly changing. It's constantly varying. But it's not being bought out that quickly. It's small. I'm trying to give you this picture of it being a very small collection of Sefarim. Actually, besides for this one, recently I ran into a number of books from Breslov, a set of books from Breslov he put there, which seemed completely random on the clearance shelf for only $30. And at the time I was trying to, and I still am trying to connect a little bit to Breslov Torah for the first time in my life, so I immediately bought it. It's almost like Rabbi Freilich has the ability to, with the few sets and the few things that he has there, he's connecting to the hashgacha of what people need without them asking. Anyways, this is called Eitzer Penine HaChasidus, the treasures of the inwardness of Chasidus, right? And I was like, I wonder what this is. And I saw it was commentary on every pasuk pretty much in Torah, coming from a very wide variety of Hasidic rebbeim. So I thought to myself, let me look at this. It was a bit expensive, but it looked cool. And I said, Hashem, I felt attracted to it for some reason. I said, Hashem, if you want me to buy this, I'll open it up. And if I read something that I find to be quite interesting, then I'll purchase it, Hashem. So I picked up Sefer Shmos, I opened it up, and I learned something absolutely amazing, which was saying that when a person really, really pushes themselves in avodas Hashem and tefillah and Torah, that, I forgot which Hasidic Rebbe this is from, that through that incredible push, Hashem gives some people that then even their maseh matan, even their business becomes a part of their relationship to Hashem, and they get to see the hashgacha behind it. Anyways, so I picked this book out. I really liked it, and I very heavy. It's 10 Sfarim, and I put it on the table next to the place that I was going to learn with my chavrusa. It felt like it. It felt like I had an incredible taiva for it, like an incredible desire, like I had to buy it. It was almost like wanting to get a really good ice cream. And I even said that to the Rosh Kollel here in Milwaukee. He said, "What is this?" I said, "It's amazing Sefer that I just found. I had such a taiva for it, like ice cream, that I felt like I had to buy it." And he said to me, "It's a good taiva." Anyways, so then I set up my computer. I got the internet, the wireless internet at shul, because there was some learning going on amongst the community. And I started to learn the first two psukim of this week's parsha with my chavrusa. And the way that we did it was we went through the diktuk of it. I'm helping this person with their diktuk. And we ended up focusing a lot on the first pasuk. So we'll go through it quickly. Im bichu kaisei telechu. So if you read this carefully, it means if in my chukim, in my statutes, telechu, you will go. Im bichu kaisei telechu. If you will go in my statutes, another way to say it. Ve'es mitzvosai, in my commandments, tishmeru, you will guard. So again, if in my statutes you will go, and my mitzvahs you will guard, v'asisem ma'asam, and you will do them. Again, if in my statutes you will go, and my mitzvahs you will guard, and you will do them. V'nesati gishmechem be'itam, and I will give you your rains in their time, meaning in their appropriate time. V'nasne ha'aretz yivula, and the land will give its produce. V'etz hasada yitin pirio, and the tree of the field will give its fruit. So now to put it all together, if you will walk in my statutes, and you will guard my commandments, my mitzvahs, and you will do them, and I will give your rains in their time, and the land will give its produce, and the tree of the field will give its fruit. So you see here that there's a direct connection between walking in Hashem's statutes, guarding his mitzvahs, and doing them. So as we read each pasuk afterwards, we brainstormed and we came up with different questions. So I did not write all the questions, which I wish I would have. I wish I could have just, screenshotted every question that we had. One of the questions that my chavrusa asked, which was right on point, was he asked, if you're walking in the chukim, in the statutes, and you're guarding the mitzvahs, why does it have to say, and you will do them? Seemingly, if you're walking in the statutes and you're guarding the mitzvahs, obviously you're doing them. So why is there a necessity for a third one? A third statement, and you will do them. Another question that came up was, why not say something more like, if in my statutes and my mitzvahs you will walk, or if in my statutes and my mitzvahs you will guard? Why do we need these two action words? Why do we need that it be split up? That bichukaisai, that if in my statutes you will walk, why is walking connected bichukaisai with my statutes? And what is tishmeru? Why does that need to be connected to mitzvahs, to commandments? Another question, right? And there's many such questions. You could also ask questions on this, like, why is it in this specific order? Why do you start first with, if in my statutes you will walk, and second, with my mitzvahs you will guard? And what's the difference in general between chukim and mitzvahs here in this pasuk? There's a plethora of questions. There's a ton of questions that you can ask. You can ask also things like, why is bichukaisai not mole? Why is there not a vav here? You could ask questions like, you could ask all sorts. I mean, it's filled with questions. And I think that that's the reason that, that's interesting. Look here, number 42. I think maybe that's the reason why the Or HaChaim had such incredible creativity, Rabbi Chaim Ben Attar, that he was able to come up with 42 different explanations on this pasuk. It's a whole sefer on its own, just on the pasuk Im b'chukaisei telechu v'etzvesveisei tishma v'asisemeisam. Another question that you could ask, which this is something that I suggested before we move on, is why directly connected to doing such spiritual avoda, walking in Hashem's commandments and doing his mitzvahs and guarding his mitzvahs and doing them, why is that directly connected to then Hashem will give you rains in their times and produce in the land and the tree of the field will give its fruits? What's the connection? What's the connection between this spiritual avoda and seemingly receiving for it some sort of a physical reward? So from our side, I thought perhaps the idea is, maybe you think of this as schar v'einish, reward and punishment, right? You're rewarded for your spiritual practice. You're rewarded with good gashmias, with good physicality. I don't think that's the deeper meaning of this. I think that the deeper meaning of it is that because Hashem loves how you are connecting with Him on a level of chukim and mitzvahs, on the levels of both irrationally, nothing will stop you, because you recognize that you're connecting to Hashem and that's all you want, and your mitzvahs you're guarding, it goes against the grain of physical reality to be doing that. If you're spending extra time really davening, you're spending extra time trying to pursue mitzvahs, and you're making sure to do them, you're completely focused on your relationship to Hashem, how's the gashmis going to come? How's the physicality going to come to you? How's that going to work? So it's going to work because Hashem appreciates it. Hashem appreciates your avodah. He appreciates your bechira, what you're choosing. So from there, then Hashem's going to give you your rains in its right time. Meaning to say, because Hashem loves your avodah, He's going to take care of the physical reality. You don't need to look at the physical reality like the rest of the world looks at it, that it's through my hands where I'm going to receive the produce that I need. I'm going to have to be out there dealing with the waters all day long from different channels and tunnels, etc., like that, or whatever it might be that one needs to do, cisterns and channels and wells in order to keep my crop and my produce good so I can become rich. Instead, when you place your focus on Hashem, you can rely on Hashem that He's going to bring you what you need because He wants you to continue in that avodah. That was the end of the Chavrusa. So I went home and I didn't have a space for this on my shelf. Eventually, a little bit later, my wife was like, wow, look at this. Your Sefarim fit on the shelf perfectly. I don't have a picture of it right now, but right, it's over there. I don't know, a little bit hard to see. I went on my shelf, and so she told me that, so I went over there, and I was like, you know what, I should look up the psukim that we were learning together. So I grabbed Sefer Vayikra, where it has Bichul Kaisai, actually this one, the middle one. Well, I guess you could call two of them the middle one. Vayikra is the double middle one, until Bichul Kaisai. I don't know if it's the middle one, honestly. I can't really tell right now as I'm looking through this picture. And when I flip open, I see a teaching which is actually asking two of the questions, or at least very close to the questions, of what my chavrusa and I asked. So before I even read the whole thing, I sent my chavrusa and said, look at this. A tzaddik asked the same questions on the specific wording of the pasuk. So the questions were, and I didn't even really think to look at who was the author of this, but it says, if in my statutes you will go, in my mitzvahs you will guard, you'll do them. There's if you're being careful, you could ask the question, am I palginhu b'chukim v'amar telechu v'mitzvahs amar tishmeru? Why is it? What's the reason that we're splitting this up in such a way that when it comes to statutes, it says you will go. And when it comes to mitzvahs, it says you will guard. Say with both of them either telechu or tishmu. Say, with my chukim and with my mitzvahs you will go, or with my chukim and with my mitzvahs you will guard. Why do you have to break them up? And more, why do you have to add additionally the words and you will do them? Which was exactly my Chavrus's question. Hainu halichu shmira tika amar. Seemingly, you could say that walking and guarding is what that means. That they're walking and they're guarding is their doing. So what's the need to say Vasisa Meisam when it's seemingly covered by the previous words in the Pasuk? Then I looked and I tried to see who was it that actually wrote this. And all of a sudden I had this spark moment of realization. This is from a Sefer called Machsev Halavan by Rabbi Yaakov Abu Chatzera, Zecher Tzadik Livracha. Rabbi Yaakov Abu Chatzera was the holy grandfather of the Baba Sali, which just that morning I had asked Hashem to bring me to a Sefer that teaches the Torah of the Baba Sali. Obviously, his grandfather is included within that. I couldn't believe it. And there I was, sitting with a Sefer that had the teachings of the holy Sephardic tzaddikim from the line of the Baba Sali after I'd asked Hashem just that morning to bring me to their teachings. And who would have thought that it would be inside of this Sefer on Hasidus? What did the Sephardic dynasty have to do with Hasidus? So what does it continue? It's a beautiful teaching. So they put nice headlines in it. This is obviously also a plug for people to buy this Sefer. It says, the davening needs action, maaseh v'dibur, and speech, l'tikun chitzonius, to rectify the external aspects, upnimius, and the internal aspects of the world. Oftentimes when we think of tefillah, we only think of our speech. We don't think about action. What connection is there to the mitzvah of davening to Hashem, talking to Hashem, and activity? Yet, Rabbi Yaakov Abu Chatzera, the Abir Yaakov, he's going to attempt here to explain that you actually need both things. That one without the other is not fulfilling what it really needs to fulfill. So it says, but actually, it's possible to, it's possibly hinting that it's talking about tefillah. The pasuk is talking about tefillah. V'amar b'Zohar HaKodesh. It begins first with a piece from the Zohar HaKodesh. We're just coming off of Lag BaOmer, so this is neat, right? So it says in the Zohar HaKodesh, Devat tefillah binan udu milula. That tefillah requires uvda, which is similar to the word maseh in Hebrew. It requires this action, physical action, umilula, and speech, or activity and speech. Uvdahu yifanav yisatif matzitziv. Uvda, work, action is going ahead and wrapping yourself with tzitzis. Ve'aniach tefillin shel yad v'shel rosh. And the tefillin of the hands, meaning of the arm, and of the head. This is uvda. This is a physical avoda. By the way, and let's say that it's not shachris, I was thinking about this, what would it be then? It says that we have to rectify our body before we daven. So there's other physical things that we have to do, even by mincha and mariv, like, for example, buttoning up our jackets properly, wearing something a little bit nicer, putting a hat on. There's always some sort of a physical washing our hands. There's always a physical more chitzonius, more external thing that we do before we actually start to talk. So you actually see that pattern, even if it's not by Shachris with tzitzis and tefillin. It's also could be done with our clothing. We're supposed to elevate ourselves physically a little bit before we actually daven. And milula ki tefillah, and then the speech. This is the tefillah, shehi dibur, which is dibur. Then he brings a little bit further in history, a little piece from the Arizal in Shar Kavanas. V'chein ksav Rabbeinu, and this also our rabbi of blessed memory, he's living in the world to come. The maaseh hu letakin chitzenius ha'olamos, that maaseh, that activity, action, these physical things that we do, it rectifies the externalities of the world. And the speech rectifies the inwardness of the worlds. And this one is not shaykh, it's not enough without the other one. It's like a body with a soul. That the body is not shaykh. It doesn't have value without the neshama. And the neshama can't accomplish what it needs to accomplish without the body. Both are necessary. You need to harmonize them in your avoda in some way. Just to explain that a little bit further, that you need this externality together with the inwardness. There has to be the physical avoda together with the spiritual avoda. Let's say, for example, that you're someone that is running a program trying to bring Yidden back to Yiddishkeit, right? So if you're overly involved in just doing everything physically, it's like a body without a neshama, right? So like I need to have a huge place and I need to have big meals with lots of food and I'll bring everyone in for Shabbos and I'm gonna make sure to put tefillin on everyone and you do everything with your body, but it's not together with tefillah. You're not also davening for the people that are coming. You're not even davening for the people to come. So it's almost like you're setting up a stage for Yiddishkeit, but it's not included within it is not actually your relationship, your connection, your conversation with Hashem. It's missing the inner aspects the tefillah aspects of what's necessary to truly live in a world of consciousness with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and to bring HaKadosh Baruch Hu and your relationship to Him into the physical world, into the physical work that you're doing. So it has to be both. On the other hand, let's say that all you want is good for Yidden, and so you sit and you're davening all day long, and you're davening for a particular thing, that I should have a house for this, what's it called? For this big programming that I'd like to do. And so you sit and you're davening with all your might. And then a contract, that actually happens because of that, to be a house that comes up in the neighborhood. But you just keep on davening. And someone says to you, there's a house that's sold over here. I'll keep talking to Hashem. No. You have to be metaking the goof, the chitzonius, the externality. It came up. Go look at it. Hashem speaks to you through the world. So you had the neshama, but you didn't have the goof. Not enough. V'hine, so let's go back to the pasuk. B'chukoisai gematria tefillah. B'chukoisai is the same numerical value as tefillah. B'chukoisai 2. 8. It's a little hard to see. Okay, to refresh the page. Okay, so you got 2, 8, that's 10, 100, 110, 400, the Taf, so 510, and then the Yud is 10. So you got 520 is the same as Ha-Tefillah. So you got 5, 5, you got 400 on the Taf, you got 80 on the Fei, which is, so you got 10 plus 400 plus 80, you're at 490, plus 30 is 30 plus 490 is also 520. See that? 520, 520. So he says, now, interestingly enough, we alluded to this at the very beginning, Bechukaisai seemingly should have had a vav in the front, after the kuf, between the kuf and the tes, but it didn't, to make it more clear that it's plural. It looks a little bit like singular, actually, especially, specifically if you remove the nikudas, if you remove the vowelization, but everything is for a reason, and that brings a little bit more light to this drasha, to this explanation. Bechukaisai gematria tefillah. Bechukaisai has the same numerical value as ha-tefillah, the prayer or the connection to Hashem. Umishum. So, we say, if in your statutes you will walk, if in my statutes you will walk. So, it's directly relating, he's saying to tefillah. The first part is talking about tefillah. And my commandments, tishmeru. Sorry, tishmeru. And my commandments you will guard is going to be talking about something else in a certain sense. So, mishum dat tefillah shaykh ba halicha, and because tefillah is connected to halicha, walking, sharei that behold hoilich beragla of levesa knesses. There's a mitzvah. Why is that? Why is bichukaisai if it's talking about tefillah? Why is that directly connected to the action, the verb of walking? Is because we have a mitzvah, it's included within the mitzvah of davening to walk to the place that we are going to daven. That the walk itself is considered kind of like a part of the umbrella of the tefillah of davening with the minyan. That walking to the place that you're going to daven is included within the schar, so to speak. It's included within the mitzvah, the reward of walking, of davening. So for that reason, it says, Im bichukaisai telechu. Sorry, im bichukaisai telechu. If you will walk in my statutes, is alluding to the idea that together with the mitzvah of davening is the walk to the place that you're going to daven. Mishum hachi amar telechu. Because of this, he said, telechu, you should go. Ve'amar, and he said, meaning in the pasuk, ve'es mitzvosai tishmeru, and my commandments you should guard. So what's that talking about? So we have right now the tefillah of the mouth of speech, and now we have the mitzvah of guarding. What are we guarding? Hematifas tzitzis banachas tefillin. This has to do with the wrapping of tzitzis and the placing on of tefillin. And so based on this, the question, or not the question, it says the following. This is the reason why it concludes and says, and you should do them. Right? So before I even look at the words, and you should do them. You should do the mitzvahs and the chukim together. It's an important part of the avoda is that there be the fixing of the externalities and the internalities, the action, the activities, and the speech. One needs to connect Hashem through both together. Otherwise, it's like a cup that has a hole inside of it. What's the point of spilling the contents? What's the point of the inwardness of the speech if you're not creating a proper keli, a proper ability for that thing to be done in the physical world? And what's the point of having good contents if you have no keli to put the contents in and use them for? Talking about your speech, what's the point? No, this is the reason why the pasuk finishes and says, and you should do them, meaning like to say to do them together. It's got to be a balanced approach. It's like saying, "Dalacha, the whole mitzvahs tzrichim ma'aseh v'dibur," that all the mitzvahs need action and speech, not just davening. Davening happens to be the thing spoken about in this particular pasuk. Ubiprat betfila. So in specific, we're talking about with davening, but it's with all mitzvahs, right? Like for example, if you're going to put on tefillin, right? We say a bracha before, but maybe you could go even deeper than that. Maybe before you put on tefillin, you could say to Hashem, I hope through these tefillin, I'll unify the higher parts of your name to the lower parts of your name, Yud K Vav K. Or you could say something like, Hashem Yisborech, I'm putting on these tefillin for you. After you say the bracha and you put tefillin, Hashem, I'm putting these tefillin on for you, and help me to be able to receive the light to which the tefillin are supposed to bring to a yid in order to connect you. Allow me to connect to the miracles that happened in Egypt and throughout my lifetime and throughout the lifetime of the history of my entire family, and utilize not just the tefillin in a physical aspect, but actually focus on it and ask Hashem and talk to Hashem about the things that the tefillin are really intended for, in order to bring something more personal to the act of putting tefillin on, right? So what's why? In order to rectify the externalities with the internalities. And this is the obligation of, and you should do them. It doesn't say you should do it. It says you should do them. First do the maseh, first do the physical thing, set up that keli, mitaking the physical, the externalities, and then afterwards speech. And then he continues and he gives another explanation, a little bit more. I'm not going to go through it in the words, but basically what he says is that you should focus. This is also telling you that you should focus and understand that this thing that you're doing is similar to a soul and a body. That we know that B'Tselem Elokim says to Adam that the man was made in the image of Hashem. Okay, I will go through the words. Just like it's not possible for you to be with a neshama without a body. And similarly, it's impossible to have a body without a neshama. That you say the same thing about the higher structures. In the spiritual world, it's impossible that there would be externalities without something inner. And it's impossible for there to be something inward without something external. And this is, you should do them. Do me the atem kamar, which is similar to the word atem, like was said. So that was that. Beautiful. Now, yesterday, I had shared this with a few different people because I thought this was such incredible hashgacha. And I went to sit down to drink a coffee. And I had in my backpack, I don't remember why, but I just did. I had in my backpack this Sefer, Meeting Elijah, Meeting Eliyahu Navi, by Rabbi Eliezer Shor, another amazing book. True Tales of Eliyahu Navi is the way that he entitles it. A really, really nice book. And I was loading into this. I'm trying to document the different stories that I'm running into, things that happen to myself, things that happen to other people. And as of right now, I've only loaded in 36, and I do it by, title of story and, where can I find it? What are the links to it? Is it a video? Is it audio? Am I just writing the actual story? Who's involved in it? Where did it happen? It looks like we got a number in the Tivot, probably because of the Baba Sali, and then what objects are involved in. That way I have an entire database of stories. I could always look it up and I can fulfill the idea of Melech Kol Haaretz, that the whole world is filled with Hashem's glory. It's a hobby of mine. It's an important hobby of mine that maybe one day will turn into something more. So, but for now, it doesn't need to turn. It's already turned into something more, is the truth. So this is the story that I flipped to, and I felt like I needed to read it. It said like this: Blessings in a dream. Fortunate is one who sees his face in a dream. Fortunate is one who greets him and receives his greeting in return. Motzi Shabbos song, Eliyahu Navi. 42, 43, 44, 45. Rabbi Rachamim Zini was counting, not minutes, not days, but years. 46, 47, 48, 49. Almost 50 years of his life had passed, 30 of which he had shared with his wife Malka. The only thing they had never shared during that time, however, was the blessing of children. Now it seemed time had run out. This is a very hard thing. 50, 51, 52, 53. Everything that the compassionate one does is for the good, he would tell himself with conviction and reassure his wife whenever he noticed her feeling sad and withdrawn. Gamzu l'tova, this was also for the best. There were other times, however, when his own regrets and disappointments would overwhelm him, lying awake in bed at night, struggling with the past and worrying about the future. Then bitter doubts would arise in his mind, not about Hashem's ways, for he was a true ma'amin, he was a true believer, but about his own ability to withstand the test. Rabbi Rachamim lived in Tafilat, Morocco, and served as the shamish of the great tzaddik in Mikubal, Rabbi Yaakov Abu Chatzera, 1806 to 1880. When I saw that, I couldn't believe it, right? Because I've never on my own seen a story of Rabbi Yaakov Abu Chatzera, and this is all after the day before asking Hashem to get in touch with their Torah. And now I'm seeing a story of him once I learned part of his Torah. Author of the work Abir Yaakov, and grandfather of the famous Rabbi Yisrael Abu Chatzera, the Baba Sali. Surely, thought Rachamim, if Hashem wanted me to have children, he would have given them to me already. Certainly, if I was meant to be a father, Rabbi Yaakov would have blessed me. Clearly, then it wasn't supposed to be. But sometimes he couldn't accept his fate with such aplomb. One sleepless night, tossing and turning in his bed, watching his poor wife sleeping beside him, his heart burned in pain. Tears welled up in his eyes, and he had to hold himself back from sobbing out loud. Ribbono shel olam, he cried in tefillah. Master of the world, I've tried to serve you my entire life as best as I could. How have I wronged you that you have withheld from me the bracha of children? Ribbono shel olam, this is too much for me to bear. I can't go on. I can't. Amidst such thoughts, he fell asleep and dreamt. In his dream, behold, an old man dressed in white approached him. Rabbi Rachamim, he said, Hashem has heard your prayers. By next year, at this time, you will hold a child of your own. Rachamim awoke the next morning, remembered the dream, and ran to tell his wife. It's just a dream, she replied. It's meaningless. We're both in our 50s. It's too late now. I'm not Sarah Imenu, that Hashem should do a miracle for me. Anyways, you've always told me that whatever Hashem does is for the best. But Rachamim's hopes could not be quelled. He recognized this was a real dream. He ran to the home of Rabbi Yaakov Abu Chatzera and found the tzaddik preparing himself for the morning brachas. Rachamim entered the word, but before he could say anything, Rabbi Yaakov held up his hand. Go tell your wife it's true. It wasn't just a dream. Next year you will have a son. Rachamim's mouth fell open in shock. Then his eyes started to glow in delight and disbelief. Taking leave of Rabbi Yaakov, he ran back home with the good news. Before the year was over, his wife Malka gave birth to a healthy baby boy, whom they named Eliyahu, after the old man in white in the dream and the miracle he had promised. This story, he says, was heard from Yehoyada Zini, the great-great-grandson of Rabbi Rachamim Zini. The story has been passed down in his family for 5 generations. And I was blown away. And just to finish, just last year, a similar story came out in the community of Babov. The previous Babov Rebbe promised a chassid who was a melamed, a teacher, that if he moved to Eretz Yisrael, he would merit to have a child. Let's see if I can find it. I could go over here. It's almost the last story that I did. Let's just see here. Rav Ephraim Fischel Weinberger. See, this is why. So Rav Naftali Tzvi Halberstam of Babov was the one that promised him this. After 34 years, Gittel and Fischel-Weinberger have their first child. And you can see here, this is Rabbi Fischel-Weinberger, and this is the friend of a Rav in Milwaukee here, Rabbi Ben-Sion Tursky, who actually took part in one of the celebrations. I don't remember which one. And you see here, born after 34 years of marriage. And I believe, if I read correctly, he moved to Israel already 11 years ago. So you could imagine the amount of trust he needed to have that he would have a child still. Because already at that age, seemingly it wouldn't have been possible. Here's a little clip from the Bris Milah. Holding his beautiful new baby. So if you begin to think that this is not a possible story, it's happening also in our days. Absolutely wondrous, isn't it?
Alter Yitzhak Isaac, Fischer Israel, Chaim Fischer, Israel, Ephraim Fischer. נשמח אב יוצאך לצו, ותגל עמה בפרי בטנה.
It's also beautiful just to see the way that everyone was so involved and happy for him, and everyone wanted to be there. Look at this shul, how packed it was to watch such a pele, perhaps even a nace in our time. Beautiful. Anyways, like I said at the beginning, Hoidu Hashem ki tov ki le'olam chasdei. There's such a great tradition from the times all the way of Avram and Sarah, where it seemed impossible to have a child. The two davened to Hashem. And he's giving everyone a bracha. Amen. 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 Just imagine the connection he felt to Hashem. Right, that our entire history is based upon parents not being able to have children, and recognizing that the world that spoke this difficulty, that Hashem spoke this difficulty into being, and Hashem also can speak into being something that a doctor would say is not possible. It's absolutely beautiful. It's absolutely wondrous. Anyways, for anyone that does watch this, for some reason they're having difficulty having children, Hashem should give them a bracha, that in the schus of their tefillas, and in the schus of their amun and bitachon in Hashem, that they too could have a child.